For my lesson plan, students had to create an Adobe Spark presentation about a plant that we planted, and they tracked throughout the growth process over a few weeks. So for students, it's very simple. They go up and add a presentation. I actually had students start from scratch on a video. And once they go in, it's going to give them many options. I will tell you that it's probably better if you implement this lesson plan to only give them one or two options, because students were clicking on each template and figuring out if they liked it or not, and then going back to the next one or trying to start from scratch. So it's better if you give them one or two options, or just set it for everyone to use the same one. So most of mine in the end started from scratch, and they had to record their plant over the amount of time that we were given. So they had to take pictures, and with their pictures, they had to add to the slides and then tell about plant parts and plant needs throughout the presentation. So after students did that, they had a little log that they had to use to record all that information, so they would have it when they were ready to create their Adobe Spark presentation. But the next thing students used is an iPad app called Anchor. And this is a really simple app for students to use when they're doing a podcast. So when it comes up, this is what it looks like. All students have to do is tap to get started, like it says at the bottom, and then it comes up to here, and they simply click record. And while it's recording, it looks something like this. And they just talk until they're done. And once they get finished, they click stop. They do have the options to apply things like interludes and sounds in the podcast. These are an option for all of them, and they're already on there, so you don't have to worry about doing that. But at the bottom, you can see that there's a songs option. This is something that you would have to download onto the app or give the app access to, so that students could use it. So it's not like they can just go out there and find any song. So you don't have to worry about it being school appropriate or anything. But my students were allowed to use these and went through it. I do have this is my personal account, but I have a school account. And on the school account, they all use the same one to do their podcast. So they all show up here. So I have them all together. We can listen to them all together. And if I get ready to upload them somewhere, they're all in one spot. After students did their podcast presentation and we did all that, the very last thing we did for the project was we actually went in and Skyped with the agriculture teacher at the high school. They have a greenhouse, and they have several animals up there that the high school students were telling us about. And for Skype, you simply download the program. You do have to go in and download it, and then go over to calls. And as long as you have their Skype information too, you simply call them, and then it'll come up. You do want to make sure that this is allowed at your school. You may have to get special permission and make sure that it works. It's not something that can be just downloaded on our side very quickly, because we have to have basically administrator password through our tech people to make sure that it's appropriate on the computer. But overall, our lesson went really great. Students did a great job. I will say that to make sure that you download those apps, or go ahead and go into Adobe to make sure that students can get on it and access it easily, I would do a podcast test on each one of your iPads before you use that, to ensure that everything's working properly on that also. But overall, it was a great lesson. I hope you choose to implement it in your classroom. And I will tell you that we only planted one plant, which was green beans. Students weren't too thrilled over that. So maybe decide to plant a couple of different plants if you implement this project. But overall, I think it was great, and I hope you enjoyed it too.